Good evening, everybody. Welcome into Group Chat Football Live. I'm Peter Ariz alongside Clay Fink tonight. Clay, welcome into the show here. Happy birthday. I know your 21st
Yeah,
birthday was here a couple nights ago there, man. So I
yeah.
hope you were covered up well. And with another year of wisdom underneath your belt here, ready to talk here on Group Chat
Oh, yeah.
Sportsman. And if you guys are just joining us here tonight for the first time, welcome in. This is a national college football show that, we try to take a bit of a different angle, right? Obviously, everyone breaks down the games, the matchups. We love that. But we're big on the transactional stuff, the portal, the NFL draft, which we're going to talk a lot about tonight. And coaching movement. So if you go back and look at our page, we covered the portal heavily last year. We're gonna have a lot of that here coming up. But Clay now has joined the team with us, has an extensive knowledge, covers the Florida State team down there in Tallahassee right now, but also has a really extensive knowledge on the national landscape. And he, meshes really well with what D Money and I like to do here at Group Chat. So Clay, we're gonna talk a lot about, like I said tonight, about NFL draft, early risers this season, guys who have kind of stood out. And I'm talking a lot here, but I say this all to lay it up for you to say, look, this is where we're at with things, and we're a month plus into the season now, right? Like after a game or two, guys pop, but you
Yeah.
can really start to form an opinion on guys after 5 games in here.
Yeah, I mean, as we're getting into conference play for most of these teams that have, relevant draft prospects, we're getting the valuable information now. You can watch the Texas Tech duo beat up on Kent State and whoever else, but what are you really learning from that? So as we've gotten into conference play, we finally been able to, develop some real takeaways. So I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah, so Clay, I know you have a lot of different thoughts in terms of just watching a lot of different clips and film and a lot of the PFF stuff. So we'll get into that individually. Just for the audience's background, myself, I'm an NFL agent. I've represented first round picks. I've represented guys who were undrafted free agents and have become starters and gone to second contracts. Still working with a few guys in the league now. So like I'll be bringing some perspective from the draft side. From hey, this is what the body type stuff looks
Yeah.
like. So I'll add my own bits and pieces to what Clay has to say here. And guys, remember to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and get in the comments, man. Let us know what you guys want to see here on the channel. And then as we get through it, any questions you guys might have. But Clay, we'll start here with an offensive line prospect out of
Yeah.
the ACC, Duke lineman Brian Parker.
Yeah, so, maybe not the most exciting player, but I'll tell you what, if he can solidify a position for your NFL team's offensive line, he's pretty exciting then. We're going to get to some receivers, quarterbacks. I'm an offensive line guy. I wanted to start with him. This is not a guy I was very high on this summer. I saw a lot of the PFF numbers, a lot of the pressure rate. He's allowed 1 sack in almost 1,000 career pass pro snaps. He's been phenomenal this year. The grades reflect it, and he has a 93.5 grade this year, which is first out of 785 FBS offensive linemen. Same thing goes for his 94.0 run blocking grade. He has been dominant at tackle for Duke. And not to give you all deja vu for anybody who really follows the draft or is, a Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan, Graham Barton 2 years ago, and I'm not saying he's Graham Barton because he isn't. Graham Barton went in the first round as a center after being a 2 to 3 year starter, I believe, at Duke at left tackle. So I kind of see the same thing here with Brian Parker. He just seems so intelligent. I know that's probably cliche for a Duke offensive lineman, but he really does. I feel like he handles stunts like he has a cerebral feeling, and he seems to always know what's going on every single play. And I just think that can translate so well to the center position. I think his weaknesses are things that can be kind of hidden if he's inside, things that would prevent him from playing tackle. And I think that's what separates him from Graham Barton. Barton had to play tackle for a few weeks to start the year for Tampa Bay. I don't really think you can trust Brian Parker to have to step out to tackle in a pinch at the NFL level. And that's why I have him with a round 3 grade. He's listed at 6'5", 300. He looks like he probably weighs a little bit more than 300, but I don't have any other verified measurements on him. I had a round 5 grade on him this summer, and now I have a round 3 grade. So
yeah, so it's interesting. I actually remember recruiting Graham Barton a bit when he was at Duke. I had a conversation on the phone with him, and when you talk about the cerebral, what it looks like with him, and yes, obviously, like you said, there could be a bit of a cliche there with the Duke offensive lineman, but it's very important, man, because it's just. When you talk about these offensive linemen, how are they going to adapt in a situation where he has to play out of position, number one? But when you're playing the center spot, so much is on you in terms of the blitz pickup, getting the guys around you lined up, so to speak. Not necessarily lined up, but understanding, what everyone's assignment is, when the blitz comes. So the center position in particular, especially if you're talking about a guy who, like you said, is not going to probably play. He's definitely not going to play tackle at the next level.
Yeah.
Like we're talking about here, looks more like a center, but still that position is way different. To snap the ball and then get your head up to then look at what's in front of you. There's going to be a learning curve there, but you would think that he could handle it mentally.
Yeah, Graham Barton's definitely like the exception of the guys who can kick all the way out from tackle to center and be like above average as a rookie. And it's kind of some helmet scouting, but you don't see a ton of centers that were former tackles. They kick into guard often, but I just think the IQ is his strongest trait, and that matters so much at center.
Yeah, and we'll see because Barton was also a pretty big time athlete as well, from what I remember.
Yep. That's the other thing is, I think he's probably closer to like an above average athlete, even for the center position. If he stuck at tackle, I mean, he'd be one of the least athletic tackles in the NFL. So that's why we're projecting him inside. But really impressive season this year. PFF has loved him. I'm curious to see how he finishes out the year.
Let me tell you, man, Duke, that's going to be an interesting team to look back on when this season's over, because
definitely
they got punched in the mouth there against Illinois. Tulane, we understood that the circumstances around that one, and Tulane was fired up to get Mensa back in the building there, but they've righted the ship here with 3 in a row. Maybe a little bit of ACC love there. They've gotten the Angelilus orange there at Syracuse, but a few good wins here now in a row. You got NC State as one of those as well. Cal, and you got an interesting one next weekend that I think will tell us a lot against Georgia Tech. So Duke will be an interesting one coming up here, and that'll be a good test for Brian Parker there in that one.
Yeah. So if we want to move on, we can get over to
So who do you want to talk about next? Chris Bell. Yeah, Chris Bell, man. Ooh, I like Chris Bell, man.
Yeah, man. Well, I got my UK magazine right next to me, so I don't like talking about Louisville players in a positive light, but in this case, he's good, man. He's really, really good. I came into the year liking Chris Bell. Shout out Corey Kinnan, who does really impressive draft analysis. He had Chris Bell as his wide receiver too. He provided this cut up. He's just such a good player, man. He's such a phenomenal athlete. 6'1.5", 227 pounds, runs a legit 4.4 40. And I have a late first round grade on him after these last 2 weeks. Last year, he didn't run any route tree. It was like they gave him the Tennessee route tree and gave every other Louisville receiver a normal route tree. This year, the comebacks, the end breakers, anything, like he's just been phenomenal this year. as a route runner, and it's like it's a different player, and he's still this huge, like, big body threat who can create separation on go routes because he's so fast. He has 35 catches, 502 yards, and 4 touchdowns in 5 games this year. But in the last 2 games, as Louisville has entered ACC play, 2 games, 22 catches, 305 yards, and 3 touchdowns. It's just, that's ridiculous production. And I think maybe my favorite stat of all, he's been 28 for 54 in his career on contested catches. It's a 59.6% rate. So 50-50 balls are actually 60-40 balls for Chris Bell. He's been over 50% in all 4 years that he's been at Louisville. He's kind of been piecing together the details of the receiver position. He's always had the tools. He's added the weight. I kind of think of him as like an Xavier Legette clone, except he actually has decent hands. So
it's interesting because something I like to do, even when we're talking about the draft stuff, is go back to the high school stuff as well, right? Yeah. And see kind of like and try to tie some of that stuff in. And not the same player, right? Obviously, I'm not saying he's this guy right now, but interestingly enough, from the state of Mississippi, coming out of high school, 6'1", 220 pounds from Starkville, Mississippi, AJ Brown.
Yep.
Coming out of also the state of Mississippi, 6'2", 220, listed out of high school, Chris Bell from Yazoo City, Mississippi. And it's interesting to me because I give Louisville a lot of credit here. Great evaluation from them. This was on the 247 composite, the 1,288th ranked player in the country. Looking at some of they were one of really, I looked like that's the only visit he took. So I got to go back and really look at that recruitment, but phenomenal evaluation by them. AJ Brown was a big time recruit, but body types.
Yeah.
And we're talking about Bell as a guy who's moving. AJ Brown ran he's a 4.49, so he's a 4.4 guy, but
yeah. Bell might be faster.
That's what we're saying here, man.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I was looking at the Feldman's Freaks list earlier to try and cross reference, and like I couldn't remember if any of these guys were on there. I don't think any of them ended up being on it, but I mean, he easily could have been. He's what it looks like, I think, at the receiver position with the mass and the top speed. So he can be a true alpha, like wide receiver one. I know that Corey Kinning, and I love Corey, he came in with him as his wide receiver 2 this summer. And actually, Dane Brugler had the same thoughts. He was wide receiver 2 for Dane as well. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And Dane's like the gold standard, I think, right now for NFL draft stuff. But it wasn't popular. And, I mean, he's probably top 5 right now for sure with how he's been playing. So.
Yeah, Dane. I remember Dane would. This is where some guys are so detailed. Dane would hit me up to verify birth dates.
Yes.
On some of the guys,
yes, he's done that. He's actually he's done that with me with FSU guys.
Yeah, so he really scrapes to get to the bottom of a lot of these a lot of the background of these prospects. So you got to love it, man. That's why we love this draft stuff, right? So the next guy we'll talk about here, someone you got a very up close look at week 1 covering Florida State, and I know over the summer you were probably digging real deep on as well. But I would say he's helped himself very much so these last few weeks here, and we are talking about quarterback Ty Simpson from Alabama.
Yeah, so former 5-star, high 4-star, can't remember, recruit, 6'2", 208, not the most overwhelming physically or athletically or arm strength, but man, this is a distributor at its purest form. And this Alabama receiver core has really emerged this year. You have Jeremy Bernard, who deserves a shout out as well. He's become a legit NFL draft guy. but he's gotten the ball to Jeremy Bernard, Isaiah Horton, Ryan Williams, the running backs. Like, it just feels like ever since the FSU game, he's making the right read on almost every play. This is maybe my favorite stat we're going to reference today because it's just so unbelievable. So Ty Simpson's grade versus FSU was a 62.1, which was 61st out of 71 Power 4 quarterbacks at the time. Since FSU, that grade has jumped 30 points to a 92.2, which is second out of 72, only trailing Darian Mensa by like 0.1. So he has turned what was a very underwhelming game. I mean, Bama fans were wondering, like, is he the guy? Do we need to see our backups? And he's become like a legit top 15, top 25 talent right now. The NFL is QB desperate, so if he keeps this up, man, like, I think probably QB4 is the ceiling because I don't think he can pass up what Dante Moore's been doing, and then Lenoris Sellers' tools, and I'm a big Fernando Mendoza guy. But QB4 is easily within reach if he isn't already there. He's got a 92.5 passing grade from a clean pocket, which is second in the FBS. That just kind of speaks to how well he's stood in a clean pocket, found these elite receivers coming open across the field, gone through his progressions. He just seems so mature, and it really not to get FSU focused, but it really does kind of reinforce that FSU kind of lucked out that Alabama was starting a first-year starter in week 1. So he looks like a different player.
You know, I'm getting really shades of, and I say this, you know, this is a compliment when I say it because this guy was a first-round pick, but he's almost like a more juiced up Mac Jones to me.
Yeah,
Ty Simpson, because definitely. Like I see what you're saying. He's not you know, he's not Lenoris Sellers in terms of traits. He's not doesn't have some of these crazy arm angles that a Cam Ward had last year, right? Yeah. Like he doesn't have that stuff that pops on tape, but he's a little bit more twitched up than Mac Jones to me. Definitely. And
definitely.
You know, I think that we've seen the pictures of Mac Jones, you know, with his shirt off, like, you know, with the beer belly, you know, and the dad bod and all that. I think Simpson is almost a more juiced up version, like I said, of Mac Jones.
Yeah, I think like one of the big things that killed Mac Jones after having a strong rookie year is teams started like just overloading the underneath routes and forced him to throw deep. Mac Jones probably has like a C to C plus NFL arm. Ty Simpson probably has like a B to A minus NFL arm. You know, like it's probably not reflective of a 5-star arm strength, but like it's not going to be something that holds him back from success at the NFL level.
So, Clay, this next guy we're going to talk about here, I'm really glad you included him on the list. This is a really intriguing backstory here, and you know, I'm a big advocate of the FCS prospects, having represented Titus Howard from Alabama State, you know, Darius Leonard, Shaquille Leonard, who just officially retired for the Colts last week from South Carolina State, like work with him. And, you know, I love to see these stories. I think, not unfortunately, because it's great for these guys, but you're going to see more of these stories where, you know, they spend a year or two at the FCS level and then end up, you know, at the P4 here, and you're not going to see as many straight from FCS to the NFL level here. But Jake Golday from Cincinnati, talk to me about him.
He's completely blown up this year. He's pretty much unknown. He played last year. He was a starting linebacker for Cincinnati last year. That was his first year at Cincinnati. He came from Central Arkansas in the FCS. I think in his final year at Central Arkansas, he did start at off-ball linebacker, but in his first 2 years, he was either a rotational guy or starter at defensive end. And he got pressure at a pretty high clip, but ultimately Cincinnati liked what they saw at off-ball linebacker in his final year at Central Arkansas. They brought him in. He had a good year last year, comes back as a returning starter this year, and he's been
this stuff, man. That drop in coverage is
it's
that's
just pretty
stuff that
ridiculous
pops.
how well-rounded he's been. The coverage stuff is some of the best I've seen in this class, maybe the best I've seen in this class, especially for a guy who's listed at 6'4", 240 pounds. So this is a guy, he has long arms, he has a big frame that NFL teams are going to like, and he has the hips, the speed to cover deep downfield, to cover the corners of the field. He just seems like a prototypical
that play in
NFL
space,
linebacker.
man. Yeah, I
It's
love that. I
so
love that play in
unbelievable.
space.
The tracking in space, the tackling consistency. He's like got his arms wide out, trying to close the gap there. He's just such a well-rounded player. This year he has an 83.0 grade, which is tied for 6th in the Power 4 among linebackers. 24 stops is 5th. He has a 91.9 run defense grade, which we can clearly see in these clips, which is 2nd. 10 pressures, tied for 11th, and he has 3.0 sacks, which currently leads Cincinnati as an off-ball linebacker. He's 6'4",
I like this guy a lot.
240 pounds with 4.5 speed. So I don't know, man. Right now, I have a middle of the 3rd round grade on him. He could easily push late 2nd, mid 2nd. I saw James Foster, who's I respect a ton. He said he thinks there might be 3 Pro Bowl linebackers currently playing in the state of Ohio. Arvell Reese and Sonny Styles at Ohio State, but Jake Golday being the 3rd. So, and the upside is certainly there. It's pretty ridiculous that this guy went to Central Arkansas out of high school.
They're everywhere, man. These
really are.
athletes are everywhere. You said Arvell Reese, man. He reminds me of Devin Lloyd, man.
Oh,
Utah. Yeah.
Yep. And Devin Lloyd
awesome.
might be leading the DPOY race right now, to be honest.
Yeah, he's awesome and just has grown into that frame too, which is what you're seeing with Arvell Reese. So next up here, we got a Florida boy, right? Yeah. Emmanuel McNeil Warren.
Yep.
6'3.5", 210. I mean, talk to me about this guy. I love talking about the Florida prospects. Another one that, when I was going through his, we'll talk about what he's put on tape here in a second, but it's just, it amazes me how some of these guys, I don't know what the story with him was coming out necessarily. I don't know what the situation was. Just looking at, Indiana was in the mix, Kansas State. That's what the profile says now.
It's like he had an early Miami offer when he was young.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe there was qualification stuff. Maybe I have no idea because he had legitimate offers here.
Yeah.
Maryland also, according to the profile.
You could probably argue that, I'm looking at it now too, you could probably argue that Toledo is the worst school of his offer list.
Yeah, so I don't know what happened there in the recruitment, but obviously we're talking about a guy here who's got some big time traits.
Yeah, so he's gotten a lot of hype, honestly, later in summer scouting. I think a lot of people finally discovered him. I saw quite a few people saying they think he can be the first group of 5 player off the board in this year's draft. And that we got another stamp today. Dane Brugler dropped his updated top 3 for every position. His top 3 safeties was 1, Caleb Downs, 2, Emmanuel McNeil Warren. So
does this hurt you right now, Clay, watching this Kentucky?
No. We did win this. We did win this. If we lost, it would. And also this is Zach Calzada, so
yeah, but at least it gives you an idea of what he's up against here.
Absolutely. So yeah, he's a massive frame safety. You see him kind of walked up in the box a lot in these clips. He's played a lot of snaps in the box as a pseudo linebacker. 6'3.5", 210 pounds, but he has the 4.5 40 speed to match. Real quick, what are they feeding these guys on the Toledo defense? You got Quinyon Mitchell, who might be a first-team All-Pro this year. Darius Alexander could have been a first-round pick last year if he wasn't 27 years old or whatever. I don't know what they're doing up there. I don't know how they're not converting it to wins, but this dude looks the part. I have a top 50 grade on him right now. He has been unbelievable in his last 3 years. 86.8 grade in 2023. These are all on like starter, some of the highest snap rates in the country at the safety position. 83.6 in 24. That jumped all the way up so far this year to a 92.5, which trails Ruben Bain, Jacob Rodriguez, who's the Texas Tech linebacker that stuffs the stat sheet, and David Bailey, who's the Texas Tech edge rusher. So that's the fourth highest grade out of over 2,000 qualified FBS defenders this year. He's been pretty much flawless. In coverage, 3 targets, 2 catches for -1 yard, 1 interception. I don't think you can really have a better stat line in coverage than that. And the size is not just for show. He's a serious run defender. He has a sack this year, and it was a physical sack. I just think he's a very well-rounded safety. He's my safety too right now. I know a lot of people like Kamari Ramsey, but I love him.
And let me tell you, this is the type of guy that goes to the Senior Bowl here and matches up because with these guys you only get a small sample size of them against other comparable size, weight, speed guys like we just saw with the Kentucky game there. They need to see it. They need to see it, against something comparable. And as soon as they see him matching up with tight ends who are running up the seam, right? And they see him matching up with running backs out of the backfield, and they see some of that pop in person. It gets rid of any of those concerns of, hey, is he just a big body who he's playing against some worse competition? So it's harder to gauge it. But once you get him in that Senior Bowl environment, I think he takes off.
Yeah, I mean, you just saying that reminded me. I just talked about Quinyon Mitchell and Darius Alexander. You could probably make the argument, offensively, defensively, whatever you want to say. I think they were probably the top 2 or the top performers at the last 2 Senior Bowls. Quinyon dominated, Darius Alexander dominated, and just completely boosted their draft stock. So maybe he can keep that trend going for his school.
So this next guy we're going to talk about here, Carnell Tate, wide receiver at Ohio State. This is an interesting one to me because it's hard to say he had a slow start to his career, right? Because we understand what he was playing behind at that time there at Ohio State. But sometimes with these 5-star, top 5 at their position type players coming out of high school that Carnell Tate was, if there's not that immediate success, the social media stuff, you see the tweets from rival fan bases that they didn't choose of, hey, look what happens. He chose this school. Should have chose our school. Grass is greener over here.
Yeah.
And he's a guy that, as I think you're going to note here, has consistently not only come in as a highly rated prospect, but has worked and gotten better and better and better. And I think has now put himself in a real nice position to be a highly drafted player here.
Yeah, so I don't do position rankings for every position, but wide receiver is one of the positions that I like to do it for. I watched 15 guys this year. I think Carnell was the consensus wide receiver 2 entering the year behind Jordan Tyson. I think that seems reasonable. And I had him as my wide receiver 9. I had like a mid-3rd round grade on him entering the year. He's a completely different human being. Like that's kind of the point of this episode, but he looks maybe more so than anybody else. I think I improved my grade on him more than anybody else. I want to point out a few stats just to express how strong this growth has been. Yards per route run. I think this is the best stat for measuring wide receiver efficiency. It's better than yards per target, yards per catch. In his freshman year, he averaged 1.74 yards per route run. If you're over 1.5, that's fine. But like if you'd like to be over 2 at bare minimum to be an NFL draft guy. He only brought that up to 1.91 last year. Right now, it's 3.6. So, and that's sixth out of 178 power forward wide receivers. He's just been unbelievably more efficient than he has been the last 2 years. He's got this kind of wiry 6'2.5", 195-pound frame, but he has long arms, 85th percentile arm length for the NFL receivers, and he's used that to make a living on contested catches. Not that he can't separate. We're not having the Marvin Harrison conversation again, but he's 17 for 26 in his career on contested catches. We were talking earlier about that with Chris Bell. That was 59% for him. Cardinal Tate's at 65. This year, he's 7 of 8 for 88%. So he hasn't had a drop this year. The hands are strong. He has big hands. Like he's a former high-level recruit. He has the tools. And something else I put down that I wanted to shout out. I didn't watch in depth his run blocking in the summer, but I remember hearing from a couple of draft analysts that like it was really ugly. And those Ohio State receivers are usually bought in on that. His run blocking grade, 52.2 in 2023, 57.2 in 2024, 78.5 this year, which is 8th out of over 400 receivers. So he's just like a completely different player. The mentality, the frame, I think he's added good weight. He's been more efficient. The hands are strong. I think this is a top 15 pick. He's my wide receiver 3 right now. So
I'll tell you, I would love to see a matchup between the next guy on our list here and Carnell Tate.
Yeah.
And that's Mansour Delane, LSU cornerback, formerly at West Virginia, at Virginia Tech, excuse me. And to me, when I watch this kid and I see your notes here, I think you have some similar thoughts. The demeanor, you know, that he plays the position with is really what sticks out.
Yeah, real quick before I get into him, I just want to shout out this dude. I'm going to talk about how he's undersized, not an overly impressive athlete, but he's just a dog on the field. His younger brother was a 5-star safety last year. He has those traits physically that his older brother lacks, but he also has the intensity. What is it? Fahim Delane, I think. Yeah,
I believe
so. Someone to watch out for. But
yeah,
Mansour Delane has been arguably the best cornerback in all of college football this year. 5'11", 191. He has really short arms for an outside corner. I don't care. Like, I just simply do not care. 20 targets, 6 catches for 77 yards, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception, 4 pass breakups, and a 22 passer rating allowed. Reminder, 39 is the same as spiking the ball on every play. He has been essentially as perfect as it can get for an outside corner facing the competition that he's faced. You're not going to allow 0 catches, but it's ridiculous. I've been pulling up the grades growth, but that kind of inspired this segment. So 67.6 for Virginia Tech in 2023, 69.5 in 2024, 88.5 this year for LSU. And that's facing much stiffer competition out on the perimeter. I mean, they faced Clemson in week 1. That probably will be the best cornerback game of the season. As you all are seeing here, he was completely locked down in that Clemson game. I think that's what alerted everybody, like, oh, man, this might be a first-round guy.
And so I'm wondering,
Clay, top 20 grade on him.
I'm wondering if there might be some teams that say, "Hey, we'll slide him inside, and he'll play slot corner. He'll play that nickel spot." I don't know if you have the PFF slot. I don't know if he's played any snaps there this year. Yeah, I'd be curious, but I think that could also be a spot for him at the next level. Just seeing the way he moves, his footwork, and the body type as well.
Yeah, I kind of get some Jahdae Barron vibes with him a little bit. Just if we're looking back to last year's class, but he's going to kick inside at the next, or he has kicked inside for the Broncos. Let's see.
But yeah, I think that could be a possibility with him as well. So it's like the debate we have with tackles as well, right? Are their arms long enough to play tackle, or are they going to have to play guard? I think we're going to see some of that with CC Mauanoa, Francis Mauanoa from Miami this year. I think there's going to be some people who say, hey, we got to slide him inside. But, those debates, I think, always work themselves out with great football players. And I think Delane ends up being in that sort of vein as well.
Yeah, I mean, Will Campbell, I'm saying this as if I personally kind of think Francis is a guard, but I mean, Will Campbell's kind of proving wrong, the arm length stuff. He's been phenomenal this year. So,
yeah, listen, I don't completely disagree with you on the Mauanoa thing either. I also think it's one of those things where the kid he hasn't shown that he can't play the position, right? Yeah, maybe the ceiling is higher at guard.
It's nitpicking, really. It's like, okay, he lost in pass pro 8 times. I think 3 of the times were because of arm length. So should we consider kicking him inside? I don't know, man. We're watching him dominate, so it's tough to evaluate.
So talking about a guy here, this next one here who I don't think there's going to be many questions about any of his measurables and athletic ceiling here at the next level as I pull up the clips, but Quincy Rhodes Jr. from Arkansas.
Yeah, so I shout out to Corey Kinnon again. His Daft on Draft podcast with James Foster. They put me on to Quincy Rhodes, I think after the 2nd week of the season, 3rd week maybe. He's a true junior, won't be 21 years old until after this season is over. He's 6'6", 280 pounds. I just want you to watch like the spin moves.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like it's Nick Scorton vibes, except he's bigger, but they're these young, clearly freak athlete pass rushers in a massive frame who can use their strength, use their first step, use the change of direction. You see the rip move there.
Very fluid.
He's just such a natural athlete. He's really been kind of a rotational guy for Arkansas, but his snaps have picked up since they fired their coach. He's built in a lab, basically, is what it comes down to. The spin move is borderline unfair. I remember thinking the same thing about Nick Scorton when he used to pull it out all the time at Purdue. You shouldn't be able to have a spin move that effective at 6'6", 280 pounds. However, he's been extremely productive this year. 7.0 tackles for loss, 5.0 sacks, both top two marks in the SEC. 19 pressures is 3rd in the SEC. He's basically top 20 in every single pass rush stat in the Power 4. Excuse me. He's been dominant, but he hasn't been playing a ton of snaps. And obviously he's been very efficient on those snaps. What is the reason to go to the NFL this year? And I think this is going to be a guy that we're going to have a lot of fun. In my opinion, if I had to make a prediction, I think we're going to have a lot of fun talking about where Quincy Rhodes Jr. is transferring in the winter, because your head coach is gone. Their defensive coordinator is gone. And I think we all know that he was extremely popular with the players, their defensive coordinator, but Petrino cut ties with him. I mean, if Quincy Rhodes Jr. enters the portal this year, top 3 player in the portal, probably,
especially at such a premier position, right?
Yep.
It's such a premier spot in terms of pass rusher. We understand what those guys get paid. I mean, Romello Height, for example, Texas Tech, he's getting paid very handsomely.
Scorton,
I believe the number was out there like $1.5 million for him.
I don't know if it was out there. I know Scorton made 1.4 to go to A&M.
So you're talking about a guy who, like you said, might have
the upside's higher than either of those guys.
Exactly.
And the production has been there this year. So,
and I think just for his own development, right? We're like, money's money, but I think what you're saying is right. He's not. It kind of reminds me of, another guy that I was recruiting early in his career at Oklahoma was Nick Bonito, and he just got paid very handsome. But he was a guy, if you go back to a lot of his PFF stuff, you'll see like he was highly, highly graded, but was, playing on a third down here, was playing on rotational, but you're like, man, like you see it, he could probably leave right now and be a top 100 pick.
Absolutely.
But you come back and you continue to learn the nuances of the position. And I think that would probably
this could be edge. Well, no, not edge one, because Dylan Stewart and Colin Simmons will be eligible, but this could be a top 10 pick if he returns,
I mean, dude, I would not ever count anything out with these sorts of guys.
Yeah.
With these sorts of there's certain positions that like are just going, there's going to be traits that we lean on, and he's got those. These other guys have him at an elite rate also. But I'm just saying, man, I agree that he could be I think just seeing some of that stuff, I agree with it 100%, man. I mean, look, this has been great. Chopping it up with you on a lot of these guys here. And in terms of, we started to hint at some of this stuff, right? There's some portal implications with some of these guys we're talking about. There's guys who were transfers of their own, right? And it kind of, you talk about a Jake Golday, and you say, a guy who transferred from Central Arkansas to Cincinnati at the time, we probably don't think much of it,
right?
But there's such a domino effect on a lot of this stuff.
It's career-changing stuff, like some of these transfer moves. You can get drafted out of Central Arkansas, sure, but clearly going to Cincinnati was the best move for him. And there's a lot of that in every draft class these days, guys who just have completely changed the trajectory of their lives by transferring. So
a lot of interesting names on this list, man. Ty Simpson, that'll be one to watch in terms of, he obviously has years of eligibility left here. And the quarterback spot, I early on, I get the vibes that he's a guy who stays. But it's also the quarterback spot, man. If he just keeps skyrocketing and he's like a guaranteed top 3 to 5 pick, then you have a lot to think about if you're him. So
absolutely.
We'll see, man. Very interested to see what happens with Bama. They're pushing the ball downfield at a high clip right now. And appreciate everyone who was on with us today on Group Chat Sports. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and we'll be back soon, man. As always, we look at the matchups, we look at the games, but we really like to talk the nitty gritty and get into a lot of this stuff. So Clay, great stuff from you today. We'll be back soon. Hit that like, subscribe. Appreciate everyone who was tuned in today.